Have you ever been surrounded by people, yet felt completely alone? Chimobi felt that loneliness long before he understood what the word meant. As a child, he noticed it in small ways. Conversations that stopped when he entered the room. Laughter that didn't include him. Eyes that looked past him instead of at him. He learned early how to sit quietly and observe, how to disappear in plain sight. At home, Chimobi tried to be everything they wanted. He obeyed, he listened, he worked hard, but it always felt like something was missing, like he was never quite enough. When mistakes happened, they were remembered for years. When he did something right, it was treated as expected, nothing special. Slowly, his heart learned to protect itself by staying silent. As he grew older, he hoped friendships would be different. At first, they were. People laughed with him, shared dreams, talked about the future. Chimobi believed he had finally found his place. But life has a way of testing bonds. When Chimobi faced difficulties, financial struggles, personal confusion, emotional exhaustion, those same friends became distant. Messages went unanswered, promises were forgotten, he watched relationships fade without explanation. Loneliness has a way of changing how time feels. Days felt longer, nights felt heavier. Chimobi often sat by himself, listening to the sounds of the world outside while his own thoughts grew louder inside. He replayed conversations, wondering what he had done wrong. He questioned his worth, his value, his purpose. There were moments he felt angry. Angry at people, angry at life, even angry at God. He had prayed, yet things kept falling apart. He had believed, yet rejection followed him everywhere. Sometimes, he wondered if God had forgotten him. But something kept him from walking away completely. Late at night, when the world was quiet, Chimobi found himself speaking to God in whispers. Not the kind of prayers he heard others pray, confident, bold, full of certainty, but broken prayers. Honest ones. Prayers that said, God, I'm tired. Prayers that said, I don't understand. Prayers that ended in silence because there were no words left. Life didn't slow down for his pain. Bills still came. Responsibilities increased. Expectations grew heavier. Chimobi had no choice but to keep moving. He worked jobs that drained him physically and emotionally. Some days, he returned home exhausted, feeling like all his effort meant nothing. But every morning, he woke up and tried again. People around him didn't see the battles inside him. They only saw the quiet man who kept going. Some mistook his silence for weakness. Others thought he lacked ambition. They didn't know how much strength it took for him just to keep believing. There were seasons where nothing seemed to change. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Chimobi watched others rise while he stayed in the same place. He celebrated people publicly and cried privately. He asked God why his journey felt slower, harder, lonelier. During one particularly difficult season, Chimobi experienced rejection that cut deeply. Someone he trusted turned against him. Words were spoken that damaged his reputation. Lies spread faster than truth. He lost opportunities he had prayed for. That season almost broke him. He withdrew even more, not because he hated people, but because his heart was tired of being wounded. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped trying to prove his worth. He focused on surviving each day. Yet even in isolation, Chimobi kept working. He learned when no one applauded. He improved himself quietly. He read. He practiced. He failed repeatedly. Each failure felt heavy, but it also taught him resilience. He realized something important. Growth is often silent. One night, overwhelmed and exhausted, Chimobi fell to his knees. Not out of strength, but because he had no energy left to stand. He didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for fame. He asked for understanding. He asked God why loneliness followed him like a shadow. In that moment, something shifted, not around him, but within him. He realized that loneliness had forced him to develop depth. While others were distracted by noise, he had learned to listen. While others depended on approval, he had learned endurance. While others leaned on people, he had learned to lean on God. Still, the pain didn't disappear instantly. Faith doesn't always remove pain. Sometimes it gives you strength to carry it. Chimobi began to notice small changes. Not dramatic breakthroughs, but quiet progress. A door opened here, a connection formed there, a skill improved, a mindset matured. He became more disciplined, more patient, more self-aware. People still doubted him. Family members questioned his choices. Friends asked why he was taking such a difficult path. Chimobi didn't argue. He had learned that not everyone needs to understand your journey. There were days he wanted to quit. Days he felt forgotten. Days he wondered if his prayers were echoing into emptiness. But every time he considered giving up, something inside him reminded him of how far he had already come. He realized that loneliness had stripped him of false confidence and replaced it with quiet strength. It taught him to sit with himself, to confront his fears, to refine his character. It showed him who stayed when nothing was working and who disappeared when things got hard. Chimobi began to understand that God was shaping him, not rushing him. As time passed, Chimobi stopped measuring his life by other people's timelines. He learned that comparison only deepened his wounds. Instead, he focused on becoming better than who he was yesterday. Not louder, not faster, just stronger inside. There were mornings he woke up with no motivation, yet he moved anyway. There were nights he lay awake questioning everything, yet he still prayed. Sometimes his prayers were nothing more than breath. Sometimes they were tears, but he kept showing up before God, even when he felt empty. One season, Chimobi faced a setback that felt final. A plan he had worked on for years collapsed without warning. People he depended on walked away at the worst possible moment. The disappointment was so heavy that even speaking felt like work. He stopped telling anyone what he was going through. Not because he didn't need help, but because he was tired of being misunderstood. Loneliness returned, but this time, it felt different. It no longer felt like punishment. It felt like refinement. In the quiet, Chimobi began to notice how much he had changed. The anger that once burned inside him had softened. The desperation to be accepted had faded. He was no longer begging life to notice him. He was learning to stand firmly in who he was, even if no one clapped. One evening, while sitting alone, Chimobi reflected on his past. He remembered the rejection, the laughter behind his back, the times he was overlooked. And instead of bitterness, he felt gratitude. Gratitude not for the pain, but for what the pain had built in him. He realized that if life had been easy, he would never have developed patience. If people had stayed, he would never have learned discernment. If applause had come early, he would never have learned humility. Slowly, opportunities began to align, not dramatically, but steadily. The kind of progress that doesn't announce itself. The kind that only the prepared can sustain. Chimobi found himself trusted with responsibility. His ideas were finally listened to. His consistency spoke louder than his words ever could. Some of the same people who once doubted him began to ask questions. How did you keep going? What changed? Chimobi never answered with pride. He answered with honesty. He told them about nights of silence. About unanswered prayers. About choosing faith when nothing made sense. He didn't pretend the journey was easy. He didn't rewrite the pain. He honored it. His family slowly began to see him differently. Not because of wealth or status, but because of peace. Chimobi carried himself with calm confidence. He no longer reacted to criticism. He listened more. He spoke less. His presence had weight, not because he demanded attention, but because he had depth. Friends who once disappeared tried to return. Chimobi welcomed them kindly, but with wisdom. He had learned that not everyone deserves the same access to your heart. Loneliness had taught him boundaries. Faith had taught him forgiveness. There were moments Chimobi still felt alone. Healing does not erase memory. But loneliness no longer defined him. It no longer controlled his decisions. It no longer made him doubt his worth. One quiet morning, Chimobi prayed a prayer that surprised even him. He thanked God for the lonely seasons. Not because they were pleasant, but because they were purposeful. He thanked God for removing people who would have slowed his growth. He thanked God for the silence that taught him to listen. And in that prayer, Chimobi understood something deeply. God often isolates before he elevates. God often hides before he reveals. God often breaks before he builds. Loneliness had been the classroom where Chimobi learned strength. Rejection had been the training ground where his faith matured. Delay had protected him from becoming someone he wasn't ready to be. Looking back, Chimobi saw that God was never absent. God was intentional. And if you are listening to this right now, feeling abandoned, ignored, or rejected, this story is not just about Chimobi. It's about you. Your loneliness may be shaping you. Your silence may be preparing you. Your waiting may be protecting you. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are not alone. Sometimes, when God makes you lonely, it's because He is doing something deep, something lasting, something only solitude can produce. Hold on. Keep believing. Keep becoming. Your story is still unfolding.